Welcome to Search Engine Optimization for Beginners. My name is Chrissy Ray, and I'm going to guide you through the basics of SEO. In this course, we're going to talk about 6 main things. First up is going to be website setup, which is a bunch of things that I think you should do no matter what you're doing with your website. Whether you're trying to do SEO or not, these are some things that you're going to need to do for it. Then we'll talk about technical SEO, which, as the name implies, is pretty technical, but it's information that's good to know whether you're technical or not. After that, we'll talk a little bit about keyword research and give you a few tips on how to do that. Then we're going to talk about on-page SEO, which is what a lot of people think of when they think of SEO. It's going to be how to update your pages or create your pages and posts and all of your content on your website to optimize it for search engines. Then we'll talk a little bit about link building, and I'll give you some basic information on how to build your authority for your website. And finally, we'll take a look at how to track your success, how to take a look at your analytics and figure out if your search engine optimization has been successful. So first up is the website setup. And again, this is something that you should do whether you are trying to optimize your website for search engines or not. You should always set up your website correctly. And that's going to include things like selecting a platform that supports SEO, finding the best web hosting provider for your website, using SSL, making your website mobile friendly, and finally speeding up your website. So let's talk a little bit about selecting a platform that supports SEO. Most of the major platforms out there or content management systems out there support search engine optimization. So for example, if you're using Wix or Squarespace, if you look at the different posts and pages within there, you'll see that there are SEO settings. So that they definitely support SEO. Now, WordPress is a little bit different. It does support SEO. It's got a lot of features that are really good for SEO, but in order to do some of the things that you can do in Wix and Squarespace in WordPress, you need to install a plugin like Yoast SEO or Rank Math. Either one of those is great. They both have free versions, so you should just install either one. You don't need both, just install one. If you are using WordPress, you also need to make sure that you have the best web hosting provider for your website. And this is true not for just WordPress, but also for any other content management system that you install on the web server yourself. It's not going to be the case for Squarespace, Wix, SquareUp, Weebly, or anything like that, because those are hosting with the provider of the platform. So you can't change your hosting provider if you're working with one of them. But if you are using something like WordPress or Drupal, Joomla, another content management system like one of those, then you do have some choices as far as where your website's hosted. And the reason that you want to make sure that you have the best hosting provider for your website is because it can affect your page speed. The slower that your page is, the less likely it is to get higher ranking on search engine results pages. Now, I like to use Flywheel for WordPress. I'm a WordPress developer. I prefer Flywheel, WP Engine. Those are 2 pretty good hosting providers. There are other hosting providers out there. I'm not going to say which ones I don't recommend because I don't want to annoy anybody. But you want to double check your hosting provider. Make sure that your page speeds are very quick. So make sure that the response times are very quick. Next up, you're going to use SSL. SSL stands for Secure Sockets Layer. And if you look at your website, go to your website now and check the URL. You should see a little lock icon to the left of it, kind of like this one right here. Right there, you can see that little lock. And that lets me know that SSL is enabled. If you don't see that lock, SSL is not enabled for your website, and you need to make sure that it is enabled. It lets search engines know that your site is trustworthy. It's one of the trustworthiness factors for your website. There are other factors out there, but it's one of them. So you do need to make sure that your website has SSL. And some hosting providers will charge you to install it. Some of them are free. So I know the Flywheel, the one that I mentioned earlier, they do it for free. If you're using Wix or Squarespace, they do it for free. But some hosting providers do charge extra to install it. It's worth every penny. Go ahead and pay it, get it installed, or switch hosting providers and find one that includes it with your hosting account. Every single website needs SSL. I don't care what you're doing with your website. You need SSL on your website. All right, next thing, you want to make your website mobile friendly. This is very important. The website needs to look good on mobile devices, on smartphones, tablets, any mobile device. It should look good on that. So if you've ever gone to a website on your phone and you've had to kind of pinch and zoom and move things around a little bit to see it, it's not mobile friendly. So double check your website, make sure that it is mobile friendly. If you want to, you can go to search.google.com/test/mobile-friendly. And you can just type in the URL here. So I'm going to type in my website, pongos.com. Test the URL, and it's going to test it for me. This can take a minute or two. It's going to actually go to the website, load it up, and double check everything to make sure that it's going to be mobile friendly. So let's give it a second to load. And here we see that it's successful. The page is mobile friendly. Always check your website on this. It's also a good idea to check your website on a smartphone or a tablet or both. And don't just limit it to your smartphone or tablet. Ask some friends, ask some family, ask some colleagues for them to check it as well, to double check it, make sure that it does look good on their devices. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about page speed. So you do need to speed up your website. You want to aim for under 2 seconds. Not always realistic. Sometimes it's going to take a little bit longer to load, but you want to try to get the page loading speed as fast as possible. And there are a few tools you can use to check your page speed. So my favorite one is pagespeed.web.dev. This is actually a tool from Google. I like to try to use the search engine tools when I can. So the tools from the search engine provider, I like to use those because they're going to be pretty accurate and they're going to help give me some insight into what that search engine is seeing when it's ranking my page. So again, I'm going to type in my website, pongos.com. And let's analyze it. This can take a few seconds. So let's get it to load. Notice here that I can see mobile and desktop. So if I switch to either one, right now it's still loading, so I'm not going to see any results yet, but I can look at the results for both mobile and desktop. Now, the performance is going to vary from time to time. So if I was to analyze this again, I might get a higher number, I might get a lower number. 78 is actually pretty good for mobile. It sometimes goes higher, it goes in the 80s. But part of the page speed is going to depend on the response time from the hosting provider. So sometimes it's slower, sometimes it's faster. It just depends on what kind of network traffic you're getting. You can see the speed index right here is 3.0 seconds. That's not bad. It's not 2 seconds, but it's still pretty good. And it'll give you, if you scroll down under opportunities and diagnostics, it'll give you some insight into things that you can do to improve your website's load speed. So you can see here, I've got eliminate render blocking resources, reduce unused JavaScript. Yes, those are pretty technical. Talk with your web developer to help you out. If you don't have a web developer, I can help you. Just send me a message. And you can see here, there's some other diagnostics, some things that it's going to give me suggestions to change to make my website load faster. So again, this is the mobile page speed. If I go to my desktop, you can see it's a 99. So it's going to load faster on a desktop. Now, if I go back to the mobile, I do want to point out under mobile, let's see if I can go to it. Down here, it shows me that it did it on slow 4G. So that's 78 is actually not bad. If a lot of people are using 5G now. So if somebody's looking at it on 5G, then it should load a lot faster. Now, another tool that I like to use to check my page speed is GTmetrix. So I'm going to type in the URL there as well, pongos.com. Let's see how fast it loads on GTmetrix. The reason I like to use GTmetrix is because it gives you, I think, a little bit more human readable, easier to read, understand metrics and diagnostic information than the page speed does. So these are things I think that a non-developer might be better able to sort through, but just do what you can. See if you understand this. And you can see here, look, I got a 68%, and you saw earlier it was a 99. So these aren't 100% every single time, but if I scroll down here, reduce initial server response time, that's because the response from the network was slow. So that's not that. The only thing you can do to fix that is check with your hosting provider, see if there's a reason that there's a slowdown, or switch hosting providers. Now, if I was to retest this, it might go faster. It might be 100%. It might be even slower. So it just depends when you test it, what kind of network traffic there is. So you might get different results each time. So let's see what it does this time. And there we go. Now I have an A 97%. And you can see that I don't have that reduced network load time. So you can see it changes from time to time. All right. So those are the big things you want to do for your website setup. Again, all of the things that I just talked about are things you should do for every single website that you own, regardless of if you're trying to do SEO for them or not. So the next thing I want to talk about is technical SEO. And again, this is technical. If it's over your head, don't worry too much about it. It's just good to know, so you can sort of talk smartly with any search engine optimization providers that you work with, or it's just good to know this information. So the first thing you'll do is check the robots.txt file. I'll show you an example of that in just a minute. You also need to create a sitemap. And you also need to set up your Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster tools. So first we'll talk about the robots.txt. And robots.txt, I'm going to go to a robots.txt file on my website. There we go, robots.txt. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. This is a text file. It's at pongos.com/robots.txt. You can type in your URL /robots.txt. If your website has one, you'll be able to see it. Again, I use WordPress, so this is going to be the robots.txt file that's automatically created by WordPress. Actually, I used the Yoast SEO plugin, so I believe that's what creates the robots.txt. But you can see here that the user agents that are allowed is asterisk, which means all user agents. User agents are going to be things like bots that are trying to index your website. So Googlebot, Bingbot, any kind of bot that's trying to access your website and read it is going to be allowed. You can disallow specific bots. One thing to note about the robots.txt file is it's a suggestion to the bots. They can ignore it if they want to. They don't have to read this and say, oh, I'm not allowed. They can just ignore it and still index your site. So just be aware of that. And you can see under disallow, I don't have anything listed there, but it could disallow indexing of certain files, certain folders, or anything like that. And the last thing that I have in my robots.txt is the URL of my sitemap, which I'm going to copy because I'm going to show you the sitemap in just a minute. But the sitemap is going to give all of those bots some more information. One thing I want to note about the robots.txt file, if you're using WordPress, go into your settings and then go under reading. There is a setting in there that says discourage search engines from indexing this website. Make sure that's unchecked. So if you ever notice that your website's not getting indexed by search engines, double check that setting, make sure it's unchecked. All right, now sitemap is up next. This is an XML file, and I'm going to paste the URL that I just copied into the browser. There we go. There's my XML sitemap. This doesn't look like XML, but if I viewed the source, you would see that it is XML. So I've got all this XML, and my sitemap actually gives you a list of sitemaps. So it's a sitemap of sitemaps. So if I look at the page-sitemap.xml, it's going to give a list of all of the pages in my site, every single page there, all of them. And if I view the source for this one, it's going to show me the last modified. You can see there, last mod. And for any pages that have an image in it, it also adds the image to the sitemap. So the reason that this last mod is useful, search engines like websites that are updated on a regular basis. They don't want to share they don't want to share stale content. So having a website that's updated frequently is good. You can see that mine, some of these haven't been updated since 2019. You don't need to go in and update every single page all the time. It's good to update content when it needs to be updated. But so for example, if you wrote a blog post and there's an update to it, go back and update the blog post, and that's going to change that last mod date. Now, because I'm using Yoast for my website, this website uses the Yoast SEO plugin. It's a WordPress site. It's automatically creating that sitemap for me. So if I go back and look here, you can see it's generated by Yoast SEO. If you're using Rank Math does the same thing. Now, if you're using Wix or Squarespace, your URL is going to be, the URL for your sitemap is going to be your URL dot whatever slash sitemap.xml. So if you want to look at your sitemap, it's going to be, again, your URL slash sitemap.xml. Just type that into your browser and you can take a look at your sitemap. If you're using a platform that does not generate sitemaps for you automatically, you will need to create a sitemap manually. There are tools out there that do that. I don't use them, so I can't give you a good recommendation on one of them, but if you Google sitemap generator, then you'll be able to find some. Now, the next step I want to talk about is Google Search Console. Google Search Console is super, super helpful. It does require a Google account, so if you don't already have a Google account, make one. And then you're going to go to search.google.com/search-console. Again, search.google.com/search-console. And you can see here, this is loading up the results. This is loading up my Search Console for one of my websites. This is the Pangos Learning Lab website. If you don't already have your website set up, you would either set it up by domain or by URL prefix. If you set it up by domain, it is a little trickier. It's a little bit more technical. It does require adding a DNS entry for your domain name. So if you're comfortable doing that, I recommend setting it up that way. But if all you set up is the URL prefix, that's totally fine. You'll still get a lot of really good information with that. Now, if you're using WordPress and you haven't set this up already, there's a plugin called Google Site Kit. It's actually from Google. You can install that. And then when you set it up, you'll have to log into your Google account. It'll automatically create the Google Search Console and the Google Analytics properties. We'll talk more about analytics later on when we talk about tracking success, but you want to have both of those set up so that you can see if your search engine optimization is making any difference on your website. You can see here, I can see my performance. These are total web search clicks. So these are people who have found something in the search engine results page and they've clicked on it. And you can see, I had 46 people found me on the internet and clicked on the link and went to my website. Coverage is important. You don't want to have anything on this red line. I probably need to fix these. I've got 43 errors. I'll fix those later. But you want to have as many valid pages as possible. You don't want to get error pages. Now, what's really useful for me is the performance. So I like to go to this performance tab here. One thing to note, once you set this up, it's going to take a couple of days to get any data in there before you see any numbers or any queries or anything like that. You will need to give it a couple of days, 48 hours or so. It doesn't go back and give you historical data. It only gives you data from the time you set it up. So set it up as soon as you can. This is your homework after you watch this video. Set up your Google Search Console and then take a look at your performance after that. Now, if I scroll down here, this is really, I love this part right here. This is going to show me what people are finding me under. So you can see most people, I've got 388 clicks and 880 impressions. And this is in the last 3 months for Pangos Learning Lab. So those are probably people who are bringing their child to a birthday party or a summer camp or something at Pangos Learning Lab, and that's what they searched for. And you can see I do have a lot of people that also search for Pangos. Now, something I want to note here, a lot of these other ones are about adding Minecraft servers. I wrote a blog post a couple of years ago about how to add a server in Minecraft. And you can see here, I get a pretty good number of people. I get a pretty decent number of impressions on that, but I also get a pretty good number of people clicking on that link. So that was a pretty popular, I wouldn't say it went viral, but it did pretty well. Now, if you click on one of these numbers here, so if I click on how to add server in Minecraft, it's going to give me some more details about that. Specifically, so you can see like which pages it goes to. It goes to the adding multiplayer servers in Minecraft. I can also see which countries it's coming from. A lot of people coming from the Philippines and Malaysia, some from the United States. And this is also nice. It shows me how many people are using desktop or mobile for that particular query. And it lets me see some of them are from videos, and also track which dates they're clicking on it. So this is a really useful set of data for me. Now, one of the other things that I want to point out in Google Search Console is the sitemaps. So if you remember that sitemap URL, this is why you want to know it. You're going to type it in here. So add a new sitemap. That's going to let Google know that you want to index your website. So if I typed in, what was it? No, not page. I want to do search. I think it's search. No, I can't remember it now. Sitemap index, I think. Oh, it's right there. Sitemap index. I think it was an underscore. I would just type that in there, hit submit, and it's going to look at that index again. It takes a little while, but it's going to use that sitemap to index everything in my website. So this is a really useful feature. Now, another tool that you can use is Bing Webmaster Tools. Bing Webmaster Tools, it's another free service. It's provided by Microsoft. It does require either a Microsoft, Google, or Facebook account. I recommend setting up your Google Search Console before you set this up because you can import the Google Search Console settings into the Bing Webmaster Tools. So the URL for this is going to be bing.com/webmasters with an S, masters. There we go. And I need to, I was already logged in, but you can see I've got Pongos Learning Lab set up here. And it looks pretty similar. It gives you a lot of the same information. You can see I've got some errors I got to fix. I will do that. But it gives you also the performance. So you can see here's Pongo Summer Camp. A lot of people searching for summer camps. Pongos Learning Lab Crofton. Again, people probably looking for summer camp, the address or something like that. I do recommend setting up both Google. Even though Google is the most popular search engine out there, Bing is pretty popular. It's pretty widely used because it's the default search engine for Edge, which is the default browser on all Windows computers. So it's a good idea to set up both of these if you can. You can see that they also have a sitemaps feature here, so you can submit a sitemap. So it's good to know what your sitemap URL is, so you can do that. And you can see there's my sitemap index that I looked at. And that actually got imported from the Google Search Console settings. So it got in there. I didn't need to submit it separately. But if you do have changes in your website and you're not seeing those changes updated on the search engines, it's a good idea to go in and submit that sitemap to try to get it to reindex it. Now, another thing that we've got on both Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools is this URL submission. You can actually submit a URL to be reindexed. So you can see here, you get 1,000 URLs that you can submit in a day. If I go back to my Google Search Console, there's URL inspection there as well. You type in any URL. So I would type in, for example, pongoslearninglab.com/about. And I don't even know if that's a page. No, it's not on Google. If it's not on Google, so if you added a new page, it's not showing up in the search engine results, but you know it's there, then you can request indexing. And it doesn't happen right away, but it can take a few days for it to get indexed, but it should index it after that. So that's another nice tool there. All right, so next thing we're going to talk about is keyword research. So first thing you'll do is see which keywords people are already using to find you. And then after you do that, you'll figure out your short tail and your long tail, your short tail and your long tail keywords. And then finally, I'm going to show you a few tools that you can use to help you with your research. Now, I already showed you where to find what queries people are using to find you, what keywords people are using to find you. So if I go back here to my performance for Pongos Learning Lab, we can see that most people are finding me by typing Pongos Learning Lab, which means I don't need to optimize that. But if I want them to find me for summer camp or anything like that, then I would need to optimize for those keywords. Those are the keywords. The keywords that people are finding me under may not be the ones that I want to optimize for, or the ones that I want them to find me for. So that's where the short tail and long tail keywords come in. But these are the ones that they're finding me under. If I really want to play up on this whole Minecraft thing, I could add more posts about Minecraft, get more traffic onto my website for information about Minecraft. One thing I want to point out here is the rows per page. It shows you 10 by default. You can show more, but if you want to see some other things that people are finding you, so you can see here on the second page here, I've got summer camps near me. So that's something that I might want to optimize for, because I've got summer camps happening right now, so I might want people to find me that way. All right, so next up is your short tail keywords. So short tail keywords are going to be 1 to 3 words, sometimes 4. They're going to be very general words, and they're going to be very competitive words. These are going to be the keywords that you want to use, that you want to optimize for, but they are going to take a longer period of time to see any movement. So you're not going to necessarily see results in a day or two with your short tail keywords. It could take weeks, months, or even years to get much progress with your short tail keywords. Now, I like to use a tool called SEMrush to do my research for keywords. You can get a free account. It's SEMrush.com, and you can get a free account, but I'm not going to go into one of my projects there. But once you create the free account, you can use the Keyword Magic tool. So I'm going to go into my Keyword Magic tool, and you can search. I think it's up to 7. I'm not positive, but I think you can do 7 searches with the free version of SEMrush. Not necessarily enough to do a ton of research, but you can at least get some of your basic short tail keywords. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind with these keywords, with this discussion of keywords, everything that I'm talking about is going to be per page. So you want to have a general idea of what keywords you want people to search for overall for your website. So for example, for Pongo's Learning Lab, I would probably want it to be STEAM education or STEM education. That's sort of my general keywords for that. But each specific page, I'm going to optimize for specific keywords. So for example, my summer camp page, I'm going to optimize for summer camps in Crofton, summer camp near me, STEAM summer camp, coding summer camp, and stuff like that. So these are some keywords, and those are all short tail keywords, but those are some keywords that I would use for that particular page. If I wrote a post on my pongos.com website about WordPress, then I would optimize for WordPress and other variations of that keyword. Now, this Keyword Magic tool, it does let you do some research. So again, if I was doing summer camp, and you can see here, I recently searched for summer camp, but I'm going to do it again. So if I did a search for summer camp in the Keyword Magic tool, that's going to tell me the KD, which is the keyword difficulty there. So the KD, or keyword difficulty, for the search term summer camp is 71. Which means that I'm going to need to have a lot of really high quality optimized content, lots of people linking to me, which we'll talk about later on, but lots of, it's gonna be really difficult for me to get a good degree of traction with that particular keyword. So I can use summer camp, and I should use summer camp, but this is going to be a short tail keyword. It's gonna take a lot of time for me to get much traction on the search engine results page for that particular keyword. Now, if I scroll down a little bit, you can see I've got some lower numbers here. Summer Camp 2022, that one's got a 40. So I need good content, unique content, but it doesn't need to be quite as optimized, or it still needs to be optimized, but it's not going to be as competitive as the Summer Camp by itself. If I keep scrolling down, Soccer Summer Camp, you can see that's 44. Here's one, 24, Summer Camp Instructor San Diego. So these longer keywords are going to be my long tail keywords. Long tail keywords are usually going to be 3 to 5 words, sometimes less, sometimes more. They're going to be longer than the short tail keywords. They're also going to be more specific than the short tail keywords. So going back to that example that I looked at earlier, Summer Camp Instructor San Diego, that is pretty specific. It's looking specifically for summer camp instructor, or probably a summer camp instructor job in San Diego. But it's going to be less competitive. So you can see the KD percentage was much lower, which means it's going to be easier for me to optimize my pages for that particular keyword. And that also means that you should get faster results. So that's a little bit more useful. Now, again, on the free version of SEMrush, you're not going to see everything that's listed here. You're going to see just the first few results, but you can click on them. So I'm going to click on Summer Camp. And I'm not sure if you get this in the free edition or not, but in the paid edition, which is what I've got, I get some additional information about that particular keyword. And this is another place that I can find some additional short tail keywords and long tail keywords as well. So you can see I've got here under questions, what is a summer camp? A summer camp has 32 campers. These are a little bit more specific, or actually a lot more specific. It also gives me these related keywords. These are misspellings, so sometimes you'll see people are going to type those in. But over here, it's also got these keyword variations. So I've got summer camp, and that's got a keyword difficulty of 71. And then summer camp near me has a keyword difficulty of 60. If I look at all of the keywords, so if I go in here, it's going to give me all of the keywords. And you can actually sort by keyword difficulty. So I'm going to sort that. The first time I think it's going to give me the highest. I'm going to go back and show the lowest. So you can see here, all about me summer camp. That's got 0. But it also doesn't have a very high volume. High volume means that a lot of people are searching for it. So I'm going to scroll a bit. Let me actually go to page 5. I'm just guessing on the pages here. There's a lot of pages. I want to try to get some keywords that are a little bit higher in volume. Let's see. Let's go to 20. So I don't think you can do this on the free version, but it's good to see this because it might be worth it to sign up for a few days. But you can see here, like for example, infant summer camp. I would never imagine sending an infant to summer camp, but maybe somebody does. That should be pretty easy. It should be pretty easy to optimize for it. But look at this, kayaking summer camp. So if you've got a summer camp and you've got kayaking there, it should be pretty easy to optimize for that. Let me go to page 50 here and see what I get. Let's see. Pixar summer camp. You can see that should be pretty easy to optimize for. Let's see. If I did like Crofton summer camp, I'd probably get, that's where Pongo's Learning Lab is. Summer camp cabin. You can see that's got a higher volume, but still a relatively low keyword difficulty. So this is a really good way to find those long tail keywords. And again, I believe you do need to have the paid account for this for SEMrush, but I'm going to show you another tool that you can use in a little bit. All right. Now, some tools you can use besides SEMrush, which that's my personal favorite. I use it a lot. If you have a Google AdWords account, which is free to set up, you just go to ads.google.com and set it up. But they have a keyword planner. So after you set it up, you go to ads.google.com/tools, home/tools/keyword-planner. And I need to sign in. Actually, I can go to the keyword planner. I should already be signed in. And here we go. All right, so I'm logged in. I can discover new keywords. So I'm going to click on discover new keywords and I'm going to type in summer camp, get results. And this gives me some information very similar to what I saw in SEMrush, but the nice thing about this is it's free. You do need it. Again, you need that Google AdWords account, but easy to set up. And here we see summer camp. It shows me competition is low, which is pretty good. And my average monthly searches is 100,000 to 1 million. So that's a lot. Summer camp near me. That's one actually that I've got on my AdWords. But you can see this is another one that's relatively high searches, but it's lower than the one at the top, the summer camp at the top. So this will give you some ideas of searches that you can, or keywords that you can use. So STEM camp is a good one. That's actually one that's in my account. It's a pretty good one. Ones that you want to kind of look out for are these that have this plus 900% or plus whatever percent. Those are keywords that have had significant changes in the past 3 months. So you can see here summer day camps near me. That might be a good keyword for me for some of my newer content because people are looking for summer camps. It's the summer when I'm recording this, but people are looking for summer camps in the summer. So it's good to keep an eye on these keywords from time to time. Now, I already told you about SEMrush. I call it SEMrush. Sometimes I call it SEMrush, but it's up to you what you call it. But another tool that I like is ahrefs.com, ahrefs.com. Again, you can create a free account with this. It doesn't give you as much information as you would get with a paid account. The paid account, I believe, is currently $99 a month. And they have a keyword explorer that you can use for that. Anyway, the keyword explorer for Ahrefs is really, really helpful, but you do need to have a paid account to use it. So we're going to skip that for right now. Another tool is MOZ or Moz.com. You can see they've got some free SEO tools. They've got a keyword explorer. It does require setting up an account. I've already got one, so let me log in. Let's see here. Oh, my Wi-Fi might be having issues. All right, it's not letting me log in to that either, so we'll skip it for now. But moz.com, moz.com it does have a keyword explorer. It does let you use it for free. It's going to give you limited results, but it's free to use, so definitely check it out. All right, next thing I want to talk about is on-page SEO. On-page SEO is the SEO, what a lot of people think of as SEO, search engine optimization. And if you haven't already, I want you to download my on-page SEO checklist. I've got a really nice checklist that gives you everything that you need to check on every page, every post that you create to make sure that it's optimized for search engine optimization. All right, so that's going to include things like optimizing the title tag. The title tag is, it's a HTML tag, but most platforms allow you to access the title. So if you're in Squarespace or Wix, you would go into the SEO settings and optimize the SEO title. If you're in WordPress, you would optimize the title of the post or the page. If you're using Yoast or Rank Math, there's actually a separate title that you can use for the SEO title. So you want to optimize that title. Just a few things about that. You do want to keep it short. You want to keep it between 50 and 70-ish characters. It can be a little bit shorter, a little bit longer, but you want it to be relatively short. The reason for that, that's what it's going to look like in the search engine result page. So if you have it much longer, it's going to get cut off. If you have it too short, it's going to look a little sparse. So you want it to be between 50 and 70 characters. Keep it simple. Don't make it too complicated. You want to try to keep it simple and relevant to what is on the page. So it should actually reflect what's on the page. So don't make your title about and then have it be your contact page. That's not helpful to the user. Again, this is what shows up in the search engine result page. You also want to use your keywords when possible. Put those in the title, but make it relevant and make it so that it doesn't look forced. So you don't want to just put your keyword in there or put a string of keywords in there for your title. You want to actually have a nice title. Try to put the keywords at the beginning if you can. This is just going to help you with the human readability of the keywords or the title in the search engine result page. If people see the keyword that they're looking for right away in the title, they're going to be more likely to click on that in the search engine result page. And clicks, in some cases, clicks on results in search engine result pages can help make your page rank higher in the search engine result page. So if you get a lot of clicks on a link, it's going to make the search engine think, or the algorithm think, that that's a more relevant result. So it's going to put it higher in the ranking. Make it unique. Make it so that you don't want to have your pages and posts in your website. You don't want them all to have the same title. So for example, if I'm optimizing my Pongos Interactive website, I don't want every single title on my website to be Pongos Interactive. That gets boring. It doesn't let users know what's actually on the page. So I would have contact us, about us, services, and stuff like that for my titles. You also want to use your brand name carefully. So as you saw when I searched for Pongos Learning Lab, I've already optimized pretty well for Pongos Learning Lab. I don't need to optimize further. I don't need to necessarily optimize my pages for Pongos Learning Lab. That's what people are already looking for in most cases when they're searching for my site. So I would probably put the brand name Pongos Learning Lab in my title, but I might put it at the end of the title. So I might put something like About Us, Pongos Learning Lab, or Contact Us, Pongos Learning Lab. But on your homepage, it's fine to have it at the beginning, but for your other pages, you probably want to have it towards the end. All right, so next up, you're going to optimize the URL. You want to be careful when you do this. Don't optimize the URL after you've published the page, because you can break your website if you do that. So you got to be careful. You don't want to change the URL after you've already published it, unless you go through and change all the links to it. But then if other people have linked to that particular page or post, then you're breaking those links as well. So it's a good idea, once you've published a page or post, leave the URL alone. But before you publish it, here's a few things you can do to optimize it. So number one, keep it short. You only want it to be a couple of words, 2 or 3 words. You don't want it to be super long. So you don't want it to be like pongoslearninglab.com/this is the page that you want to go to because it is very cool. You would probably just have pongoslearninglab.com/this is the page. You want it to be pretty short. You also want it to be relevant. So if you are sending people to your about page, the URL shouldn't be pongoslearninglab.com/contact. You want it to be about or something like that. Also make it all lowercase. It's just easier for people to type. So if you actually copy the URL, put it somewhere, if you put it in a slideshow or you put it on a card or something like that, try to keep it all lowercase. It's easier for people to type so they're not having to type in. Even though capitals don't really matter on URLs, sometimes people are going to type it in because that's what is actually on the printed page. So just use all lowercase. You also want to separate the words on it. So if, for example, you've got a URL that's about us, it would be about-us and not about us, all one word, and not about _us. You want to use dashes instead of underscores. The reason you would use those dashes instead of underscores look like underlines. So if you have the URL in a text document, especially Word, Microsoft Word will underline links automatically. It does it out of the box. So if it underlines your link and you have an underscore in it, they're not going to see the underscore. They're going to see a space instead. So don't use underscores, use dashes instead of underscores. All right, so the next thing you're going to optimize is the headings. This is very important. You want to make sure that your headings are used correctly. All right, so we're looking at a blog post on pongos.com. Number one, notice that the URL there is SEO-on-page-tips. That's a nice, short, relevant, very relevant URL there. But I do want to point out the headings. First off, I have one level 1 heading on my page. On your website, you should only have one level 1 heading. It's also called an H1. So the title or the most prominent heading should be the H1. And you can see here on my page, that is my H1. Use your headings properly. You should have, underneath of a level 1 heading, you should have one or more level 2 headings. So this is a level 2 heading. I keep scrolling down. This is a level 2 heading. That's a level 2 headings. And look, it's a post about on-page SEO. But you can see I've got several level 2 headings. If you have the ability to add level 3, level 4, you can go all the way down to level 6 headings. Use them appropriately. So use them where if I have a level 2 heading and I've got a bunch of content under it, I might break it up into additional level 3 headings under that. And under the level 3 headings, I might add additional level 4 headings. Don't just use a heading because you like the way it looks. That's not how you use headings. I've seen that on a lot of websites. You want to use them correctly. You want to nest them correctly. You also want to use your keywords when possible in your headings. So you can see here in my level 1 heading, I believe the keyword for this page is on-page SEO, and you can see I use that keyword in my level 1 heading. And I could have used it in my level 2 heading, so I could have put in optimize your title tags for on-page SEO. I just decided it was a little overkill, so I chose not to do that. But if I wanted to optimize it further, I could do that. I could add them to all of my headings for this particular page, all my level 2 headings. All right, so the next thing we're going to optimize is the description. And the description, I'm going to view source here, is actually some HTML code. Let me zoom in so you can see this. It is right here. There's actually 2 of them right here. Learn how to implement on-page SEO to create content search engines will love. Read the post and then download the accompanying checklist. So that is the description that I have for that. The description is set in your SEO settings. So if you're in Wix or Squarespace, you would go into your SEO settings and add a description there. You want to add a description for every page in your website. This is very important. You want to add a different description for every page in your website. It shouldn't be the same description on every single page. It should be different. If you're using WordPress, you're going to go into the SEO settings or rank math. You're going to go into the SEO settings for each particular post or page and set the description there. But you do want to set a description for every single page on your website. I do know that Yoast, and I'm not sure about rank math, but I know Yoast will give you a default description to use on pages. You can use that, but make sure you go in as you add each page or each post and change it so that it's custom for that page. Your description should be short. It should be less than 160 characters. It shouldn't be too long. Again, the reason for that is because that's a lot of times what shows up on the search engine result page. On-page SEO is going to be a very high keyword difficulty keyword, so it's probably not going to show up on the first page or anything like that, but you never know. But that's going to be what shows up. And you also want to use your keywords. Again, it's going to be helpful. Part of why you want to use the keywords is because when you search, so if I search on Google for on-page SEO, let me search for on-page SEO. You can see it bolds the keywords. There's on-page SEO gets bolded. So it makes it stand out right there. So you can see all those on-page SEO. So make sure that you use those keywords in the description because that's going to be what shows up. Make it unique. I already said this, but you want to have every single page in your website should have a different description. Every single page. And also make it actionable. I like to make mine actionable. You can see here, this is a good one. Scan your website and get a roadmap. So they're telling you what to do when you go to that page. Some of these aren't actionable, but I like to use actionable. Not 100% required, but it does help to let people know what to do when they get to your page. And then also make sure that the description matches the content of your page. A lot of people will just put in a default description, which again, you can set up with Yoast SEO and some of the other plugins, and then not actually describe what's on the page. You're going to annoy your users if you do that. So if somebody sees on here that this page here is about on-page SEO, and you can see the description says it's about on-page SEO, but then when I get to it, it's about technical SEO, I'm going to be annoyed. I'm going to hit the back button pretty quickly when I do that. You don't want people clicking the back button because that can affect your search engine results. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is optimizing images. So when you optimize your images, this is helpful not just for search engine results, but also for management of your media. Some things that I like to do for my search engine, I can't talk today. Some things I like to do for my images. I use descriptive file names. So, for example, if I have a picture of a woman, I wouldn't call it image1.jpg. I would call it picture of woman.jpg or picture of woman cheering or picture of woman or woman cheering, woman happy, woman excited, woman mad. .jpg. I wouldn't just call it image 1, image 2, image 3. You also want to use alternative text. So if we go back to this page here, right here, if we look at this, I'm going to inspect the code here. This is HTML, sorry, don't want to scare you. I'm zooming in a little bit here. So you can see here, there is a alt tag, or not a tag, it's an alt attribute. So the alt attribute is a description of what is in the picture. There's a couple of reasons why that's important. Number one, if somebody is coming to my website and they can't see the website, the alt text is what's read to them by their screen reader. So if somebody's not able to see the page, they're blind, they have low vision or anything like that, the screen reader is going to tell them what's in the picture. The other reason is because any text that you have in your pictures can't be indexed by search engines. So it can index your HTML, but it can't index your images. It can't index the content in your images. Same thing is true of videos. Even though my on-page SEO checklist does not include anything about videos, I just want you to be aware that if you have videos on your website, the search engine isn't going to, unless you have captions or better yet, a transcript. If you have a transcript on your page, it's not going to index the content of the video. So you want to have that text on the page somewhere for that to be indexed instead. You also want to try to resize the images. So set them to the size that they're going to be in the finished page, and you want to compress the images. And the reason for the resizing and compression is actually going to relate to the performance of the page. Remember, the page speed is something that's taken into account when with the search engine results page. So the faster your page loads, the higher the ranking is going to be. So if two websites were identical, one of them loads in 2 seconds, one of them loads in 20, the one that loads in 2 seconds is going to be ranked higher. And the smaller your images are, or the more optimized your images are, the faster your page is going to load. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is your links. Optimize those links as much as possible. Use descriptive text. So don't use text like read more about it, or learn more, or click here, or anything like that. That is not descriptive text. And descriptive text is going to tell the user what they're actually clicking on. So for example, you can see here, I've got a link to TinyPNG. And so I've linked TinyPNG. That's going to let people know when they click on it, they're going to the TinyPNG page. That's a little bit more descriptive. But you want to try to use the keywords for the page that you're linking to when possible within those links. And you want to use relevant links. So if in this page here, this section talks about compressing images, and here I'm linking to a tool that's specifically for compressing images. So you want it to be relevant to the content of the page. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is optimize your content. So you can see here on this page, I have used my keyword several times, on-page SEO. On-page SEO, there's another one. So I use it a few times throughout the page. So you want to use your keywords as much as possible, but still make it work with the content. So don't just repeat the keyword over and over and over again. That's not going to work. That's going to be stuffing the keyword into the post or the page. You want to use it naturally. You also want to have at least 300 words on the page. It doesn't have to be a ton of content, but if you have fewer than 300 words, then the search engines are going to think that the content is thin, and thin content doesn't rank as high as content that's thick. I guess, I don't know if that's the technical term for it, but it's the opposite of thin. You want to have enough content for the user to find the page worth looking at. This particular page here has like 1,700 words. So you can see that's a pretty long. This is a little bit long one, but that's a pretty good number for a blog post. So 300 words is great. 1,200 is better. So write as much as you can. So the next thing I want to talk about is link building. So there's a few things that you can do with building your links. Number 1, create link-worthy content. Number 2, repurpose your content. You can also become a guest blogger. That's a really good way to build links to your website. You can also ask for what are called mention links. And then finally, you can participate in communities. Now, creating link-worthy content. Why do you want to do this in the first place? Why do you want to build links to your website? Well, there's this thing called authority. Authority is a measure of how important and relevant your website is, how trustworthy your website is. The more people that link to your website, the more likely the search engine is going to say, hey, this person's saying some really important stuff. So they're going to think that your authority is higher, which is going to help your search engine results. So you want to create link-worthy content. Make content that people are going to search for. And there's a really cool website. It's called answerthepublic.com. And it's got a sort of a search engine here where you can see what people are asking about. So I'm going to change the country to United States, and I'm going to search for WordPress. Let's say I'm going to write a blog post about WordPress. So let me search. And it takes a minute to load, but I'm going to get this really cool visualization of questions that people are asking about WordPress. So here's one. Let me close this. What WordPress plugins, what WordPress version do I have? What WordPress plugins do I need? What WordPress theme am I using? So this one right here, what WordPress plugins do I need? That might be a really good blog post. If I'm trying to optimize my content for WordPress, that might be a really good blog post to write about. You can use these questions, and if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see prepositions and comparisons. So these are all ideas for blog posts that I could write about that WordPress topic. So lots of really good suggestions there. These are things that people are actually looking for. So that's why this is such a useful tool. You can use it for free. They'll give you a limited number of queries when you do that. You can upgrade to a pro plan. If you're going to be doing a lot of research, it might be worth it to upgrade. But this is a really useful tool. Now, another thing when we talk about creating link-worthy content is targeting and optimizing for the keywords. So think about what keywords you want to optimize for and make your content target that keyword and optimize for that keyword. You also want to use formatting on your content. So use headings like I already talked about for optimizing on page. Use your headings, use bullets, make it easy for people to find the content and scan the content. And then the other thing is you want to become or write like a thought leader. You are the expert in the subject that you're writing about. If you're not, you need to become the expert. You need to do the research and become the expert and write like the expert on the subject matter. So people are going to refer to your content if you're a subject matter expert or a thought leader on that particular topic. Now, another tip that I like to give is repurposing your content. You can reuse your content from one format for others. So for example, if right now I'm recording a video on search engine optimization, that's one format as a video. I might also use that video in a blog post. So I might write blog posts regarding the content, or I've already written them, but I could write blog posts relevant to the content that I'm making the video for. And I can use the same research for both of them. I could create some downloads, which I've already done. I have that on-page SEO checklist. So you can create a PDF about the subject. You could make a podcast about the subject. So you can use the same research for several different mediums to get that information out to your audience. Now, there's a few reasons this is helpful, but number one, you can serve different audiences. So if you're driving in the car, you're probably going to listen to a podcast. You're not going to read a blog post. So having those two different versions of the content available is going to reach different people. I like to listen to podcasts in my car. I don't read blog posts while I'm driving my car, but I'll listen to a podcast about the content while I'm driving my car. The other reason that it's nice is because you can cross-promote your content. So when you add the video, you upload it to YouTube or Vimeo or wherever, you can link to the blog post, or you can link to the download or the course or whatever other content you've created from that same research that you've done. So repurposing your content is a really good way to sort of cross-promote and reach those additional audiences. So another thing you can do to help establish your link building is become a guest blogger. Reach out to other bloggers in your niche and talk to them about becoming a guest blogger. Try not to do it in a spammy way. Try to establish a relationship with them, maybe through social media, and tag them in Instagram or on Twitter or something like that to reach them. But you want to reach out to them and see if you can post on their website. Use their audience as to help expand your own audience. Now, don't just do it for the backlinks. That's a nice bonus. You in most cases you're going to get a link back to your website, but don't just do it for that. You want to do it to sort of establish yourself as an authority or a thought leader on your subject matter. So that's another reason that you want to write these guest blog posts, is to, again, expand your reach, expand your community, and potentially get links back to your website. Another thing you can do is ask for what are called mention links. SEMrush, if you use the paid version, has a brand mentions tool. It'll tell you whenever your brand is mentioned, or it'll keep track of your brand, and it'll try to tell you whenever your brand is mentioned. So if you're mentioned in a newspaper article or from another website, a blog post or something like that, it'll show up in your mentions in SEMrush. You can then reach out to the person that wrote the article and say, hey, you've already mentioned me. Can you add a link to my website? Assuming that what they wrote is nice. You don't necessarily want to do that if what they wrote is negative. But if your brand is already mentioned, just ask for the link to go back to your website. One thing you don't want to do, though, is offer to pay for a link, because that's frowned upon. And in fact, if you pay for a link, then they're supposed to add a no follow to it or a sponsor element to it. So you don't want to do that. So that's not going to help. Another thing you can do is participate in communities. So go to Reddit, go to Facebook, go to LinkedIn, and join communities about your subject matter. Get involved with those communities. Just be sure that you are following the rules in the communities. Don't just post, don't just promote yourself. Don't just spam the group with links to your stuff. You want to maybe make it relevant. So if somebody says, hey, I really need to make a website, I might send them a link to my build a website in one day course. That's going to help them. Don't just post the link without getting permission for it, and make sure you're following the rules. But another reason that these communities are helpful, again, you can establish yourself as a thought leader. If anytime somebody asks a question about WordPress, I answer it, or I try to answer it, or I point to resources for it, people are going to know me as the person to go to when they have a WordPress question. So it's really good to use those communities as a way to establish yourself as a thought leader. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about is tracking success. You need to know if your search engine optimization is actually working, because if it's not, then you might want to try other things to help with it. So you can use analytics tools to do that. And analytics tools are going to include things like Google Analytics, which I mentioned briefly earlier, but I'll talk a little bit more in depth now. Google Search Console, which we've already looked at, SEMrush, and Ahrefs. So if you have an SEMrush account, even if it's a free one, or if you have an Ahrefs account, you're going to be able to see some historical data and see how your stuff is performing. SEMrush and Ahrefs both have a feature where you can see your keyword tracking. So you can see what number you are in the search engine results for the keywords that you're tracking. And it'll track it over a period of time. So you can see how that tracking, how that ranking has gone up and down. You can also use a tool like Google Analytics. So let me go into my analytics account. So we go to analytics.google.com. This is already set up. If you don't already have it set up, set it up, add it to your website. You do actually have to add something to your website. But this is the analytics data for Pongos Learning Lab. If you do some optimization on a particular page, you should see spikes in the traffic. So if you go through and you optimize it, it may take a little while. So if I do last 28 days, let's say that I optimize something on this day, or on this day, I should see a spike shortly after on that particular page. But you can also see here, the organic is that kind of lighter blue bar. A lot of my traffic is direct, but the organic search is relatively thick, relatively high. So you want to have that there as well. You can see how your organic search is growing over a period of time. So if I go over the last 90 days, you can see there's my organic search. It hasn't really grown much over the last 90 days, but I haven't really done much with this particular website. But you can see how it's improved. All right, so I hope you found all that useful. If you make sure that you join the Get Your Business Online Facebook group, I will put the link in the description for this video. Join that group and you can ask questions in there. I am working on a course, a longer, more in-depth course on search engine optimization. So if you downloaded the on-page SEO checklist, you'll get an invitation to that course once it's ready. I hope you join it, and I hope you keep learning and making those pages optimized, making those websites optimized, and get your search engine result page ranking super high. So I hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching.